bed. All right. So, respected Sheikh, dearest brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Hajj Hassanain for coming out, and then I'd like to thank you all for coming out on a Friday night. Alhamdulillah, your priorities are all good. That's great. So, I don't want to talk too much. I want to go ahead and invite brother. But before I do, I'd like to give you all a quick background. I'm sure you all know of Sheikh Hassanain, but do we really know him and his background? I'd like to give things. So, Brother Hassanain Rajabali, a popular, well-known speaker living in Dearborn, Michigan. He's traveled the world really to lecture on Islam. I'm sure you've heard him and seen him on video. Graduate from the University of Colorado with a degree in molecular biology and psychology. Brother Hassanain recently, it's not recently anymore, but he moved to Dearborn, Michigan from New York, where he was the principal of the Tawheed Institute, and he ran a successful internet company there as well. Brother Hassanain is currently the director of Camp Taha, which is the world's first Muslim-owned camp located in Columbiaville, Michigan. And he had come to the US in 1975 and he immigrated from Tanzania. So that's Sheikh Hassanain. We're going to have the format of, well, the topic is going to be proactivity Islam. The format is going to be 10 minutes of him talking about this topic, and then we're going to open it up to you. That's where we found the most value. That's why you all come, inshallah. Questions, we definitely encourage you raising your hand, asking your questions. I'll ask Sheikh to repeat those questions for everyone's benefit. But if you are shy, which this community is shy in the beginning, they get warmed up, then feel free to text your questions to that number over there. And that's only questions for tonight. Just there. I don't want to hear text from you in the middle of the night, as some people were saying. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and invite Sheikh Hassanain with a loud salawat.
My respected sisters and brothers in Islam, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I begin in Allah's name, the beneficent, the merciful, and I'm grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us this opportunity to realize how merciful He is and to give us the autonomy to do His good work. The world is full of opportunities, but it is also filled with all kinds of traps and all kinds of potential dangers. And Allah has built that strategically so that we elevate our status. So for the next 10 minutes, I'm just going to establish the fundamental principles of why do we need to be proactive in Islam? Why do we need to be proactive, period? Number one, because there is something innate and natural in us that we need to be proactive about, even if we don't believe in Allah, and I'll discuss that briefly. But the true nature of a being is to take oneself towards perfection. So if I find something good and I see something better, there's something natural in me that's going to demand the better over the good, though both are good. And that natural desire to up the ante, as we would say, to something better, is something that is built in my fitrah. I cannot avoid it. Perfection is something that we all demand. And even though it's idealistic, we nonetheless realize its existence. It's just like in an exam, if 100% is perfection, we want it. If that's the maximum, we want it. But of course, as we know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the ultimate objective, and He is infinite, and therefore the approach to perfection is an infinite journey. But that's the beauty of existence in life. So Allah has created us, and I'm just going to establish some very brief principles why we should believe that I need to be proactive. It's extremely important that there's what we call a perspective change in life that changes the dynamics of how we operate. It's interesting to human beings that when I deal in psychology and I deal with human behavior, that I can see a person who's failing, and we might think that we may have to change their whole environment to make them successful, but in reality, the entire solution is in the person, not outside the person. and there is a psychological perception that this person is suffering from, or there is a lack thereof in terms of aspirations and visions, which makes this individual to be apathetic or to be very relaxed or not proactive. And the minute you open up a door, a visual door, that they see, wow, that's an opportunity I can get, and you give them a few pushes on the side, you find this individual suddenly starts to flower because they start to get responses really quickly, and that's the beauty of life. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided us two kinds of responses. One is instantaneous and one is long-term. The most valuable, of course, is the long-term response, but it's a collection of instantaneous ones. Okay? And a true believer, once they evaluate the true purpose of life, will understand that all these little responses are a collective, compounded result of something that's greater awaiting in the near future or in the long future. So, to use the adage, a wise person thinks long-term, a fool thinks short-term. Now, what does that mean? If my entire goal in life is short-term, as I say, live by the day, day to day, and I don't think of the future, then that's a foolish attitude. But a person who thinks of the future long-term, engages the long-term with the short-term, and does short-term events to culminate to the long-term, that's a wise person. And that's the hikmah of the Quran. So fundamentally, I'm going to tell you that as a public presenter, I travel the world by Allah's grace. I've been given this opportunity by His infinite mercy. And I speak in academia, I speak in religious institutions, I also speak in churches and synagogues. And I'm fascinated by the power of motivation. You'll find that the most successful, powerful people in the world are motivational speakers. The world can never get enough motivation. It's something very interesting. Take Deepak Chopra, you take Dr. Wayne Dyer, okay, you take Joel Osteen, you take Anthony Robbins. These are world-renowned motivational speakers. They will charge you $10,000 a day to sit next to them. And all they will do is motivate you to think differently. And CEOs, CTOs, CFOs, CIOs, they all go to get motivation. And even those who are not holding executive positions want to be motivated. Motivated about what? About the potential of success. So that's beautiful. If you ever listen to Dr. Dyer, he's always talking about these motivations, and I love that. And Dr. Dyer is very strategic. He brings in this karma, he brings this energy, this positive energy, and he speaks about a divine being. He talks about this God who is the driving force of motivation. And if you study the essence of motivation, it requires a deity in it. If you remove God from the picture, motivation dies. You're basically disconnected from the wall. So there has to be an infinite entity to drive the motivation towards infinity. Otherwise the motivation dies. Because the minute it becomes short-lived, your mind starts to say, then what? Will I reach a plateau? Then what? And I may reach this plateau, but then there's no more growth, and I can see nothing but decadence and degradation after that. So why should I go for that? If I want to reach this peak, then what? There has to be something greater. And this innate nature to an infinite desire of greatness is precisely where I'm going with tonight's presentation. With reference to motivation and proactivity with a clear vision of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the picture. Clear. So when I examine the universe rationally, I know this universe cannot exist unless there is a being who was not dependent on time. Because we know rationally from nothing comes nothing, we are something. Whatever made us was not bound in time. Because by basic principles of logic, I will explain it to you very simply. I don't want to go too deep into this, but I want you to understand it so that you feel motivated. He says, subhanallah. Wow. See, when you feel that energy of God in your heart, suddenly you become a different person. It's all in us. Trust me. The solution to life is not outside. It's within. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu alaykum anfusakum. Take care of yourself. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nar. Waquduha an-nas wal hijara. All those of you who believe, take care of yourselves and your family. It's all in me. There's an interesting philosophy, I won't take a divergence on this, but when we're young, all the solutions and problems are outside. The older you get, the more you internalize, until you come to the reality that actually, I am the problem and I am the solution. I hope you understand that. It's not about the external factors, it's who you are. What do you do with it? And how do you transact with this spectacular universe? So going back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's a basic logic. That what Allah, like Bertrand Russell asked this famous question, since God created everything, who created God? And he would chuckle and say, you see, these theistic people cannot answer that. The answer is very simple. No one created God. He said, no, it's absurd. Since everything needs a creator, then God needs a creator. So my argument is, and it's a logical argument, it's not mine, but Mullah Sadr also uses the same, of course Mullah Sadr was a master of such argument. He said, assuming that God needed a God, which is the question that's being brought forth, then there is a clear understanding that that God who created the God would also need a God, who would also need a God, who would also need a God, and now we have a problem called infinite regression problem. It's a problem called infinite regression. That means that you have a series of dominoes where the domino will not fall unless the first domino pushes the domino. But if there's an infinite dominoes waiting to be pushed, then no domino can be pushed, and therefore no domino is ever pushed, and therefore you and I cannot exist. And since we do exist, then the only rational argument is that whoever pushed this first domino was not waiting to be pushed and was always there, and therefore he was not created. It's logical. And when I bring these arguments to atheists, they're dumbfounded, they don't know what to say. Because it's fitrah. You see, وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. We perfected this self, we taught it wrong and right. You know it. You must execute it. What I find fascinating is when I listen to Dyers and Anthony Robbins, they're good. They're very smart word weavers. They're very articulate. They grab your attention. They can hold you for hours. And they're fantastic in the power of communication. Allah says, عَلَّمْهُ الْبَيَانِ. We taught you this art of bayan. But every time I listen to them, and as nice as it is, and as much as I touch it, I know that communication that this person is giving me, if I simply circle his thoughts, I will never get to my real goals. It's a means to the goal, but it's not the goal. It's lacking. In other words, it's a meteor aiming in the right direction, but the meteor does not recognize the trajectory. It's in the right direction, but doesn't recognize it. I believe the only people who will recognize this in its fullest extent are the ones who know the truth of the message of Allah. And it's impossible to know that unless the right representatives are placed in order. If you don't have the right role models, they will always take you in the wrong direction. Take the Christians, for example. You find Paul distracted the believers of Isa. He came and concocted ideas that were not true, which then led to a major lie that has survived 2,000 years. That lie has led the entire Christian community into a ditch and has led to so many social problems, unimaginable social problems, that in order to eradicate it, one has to now essentially dismantle the entire system. And that's virtually impossible unless it self-destructs. By the way, all religions are going to ultimately self-destruct. Allah says, وَالَّذِي أَرْسَلَ رَسُولَهُ بِالْهُدَى وَدِينِ الْحَقِّ لِيُظْهِرَهُ عَلَى الدِّينِ كُلِّهِ. He sent messengers with truth, and it will supersede all religions. That superseding requires a pragmatic approach. So I'm going to express this very briefly. Sorry if I'm taking a little extra time. When we talk about proactivity, that I'm a Muslim. Okay, so I am guided. I recognize I exist. Alhamdulillah. I recognize I'm endowed. And I recognize around me that everyone is endowed. I've never seen a creature, even an atomic particle that's not endowed. Even an atom is endowed with electrons and protons. Subhanallah. Wow. You know? This is incredible. So Allah is talking to me and says, so what are you going to do about it? So the next natural reaction is to say, how do I fit into this great picture so that I continue to energize this spectacular universe? And Allah has built a spectacular mechanism. And He says, you just keep hitting the buttons the right way, you will become its beneficiary. you will own the universe. أَلَمْ تَرَ أَنَّ اللَّهَ سَخَّرَ لَكُمْ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَأَسْبَغَ عَلَيْكُمْ نِعَمَهُ ظَاهِرَةً وَبَاطِنًا. Don't you see, Allah said, I made the universe subservient to you. What are you doing about it? That's the motivation we're talking about. Let's bring it down to a practical level now. We are growing up in the West. We have issues. How do I solve these issues? Often we develop these philosophies in religion that because we see Allah is so great, so mighty, that we somehow get stupefied and we become numbed by His greatness to the extent that we expect Him to do things for us. And the only thing we're going to do is pray. Because God says, "Ad'uni astajib lakum." Ask me, I will reply you. So we're just making dua. Oh Allah, do it, solve our problems. But the verse that I'm quoting up here, in Surah Al-Ra'd, verse 11, Allah says, "Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim." Indeed, Allah does not change the affairs of a community until the community changes themselves first. So I ask the question, where do I start and where do I go? Here's a basic foundation I want you to understand. And as soon as I do this, I want a dialogue. Because I want to start making comments. I want to start making statements. I want you to feel free to raise your hand at any moment. Please do not be very, don't be so rigid with protocols in this. I don't want you to be rigid in this gathering. Feel free to express. I have no problems if you disagree with me. I like it. I've got no problems. I don't mind dissent. I don't mind rejections. I don't mind challenges in life. I love them. But just be practical and be principled in your challenges. Not to have ad hominem, but to say, I think differently. How about we do it this way? I love that dialogue because it enhances my understanding and hopefully I will enhance your understanding. Okay. So from an Islamic point of view, we ask the question, how much free will do I have so that I'm really proactive? Now historically, you know that the Quran is very categorical and clear that human beings have been given free will. There is no question about that. The argument that evolved after the Messenger was, is it total free will or is it a perceived free will, known as the Jabarites and the Qadarites? You see, Allah wa Qadar. How much is Allah controlling me? And how much free will do I have? So I'm going to establish it very briefly before you go to the discussion. First and foremost, Allah has given us limited free will. There is no such thing as totality of free will. Anybody who says, God has given me total free will is a liar. Because total free will implies the free will for my own existence, and I can change my date of birth, I can cause my own existence, I can do what I want, which is absurd. Nobody in the universe has total free will but Allah. Please understand it. Not even the Holy Prophet has total free will. Impossible. Nobody. Everything belongs to Allah and His might. إِذَا قَضَى أَمْرًا فَإِنَّمَا يَقُولُ لَهُ كُنْ فَيَكُنْ. When God decrees a matter, He says to it be and it is Allah's free will. So our Imams, by the way, clarify this. Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam clarified it. At that time, as you know, between the period of Abbasid and Umayyad Empire, when there was a shift taking place, so many sub-philosophies had developed, which really corrupted the minds. And this came because of people like Muawiyah, who created this notion of what we call predestination, in order to justify the evil deeds. Because what they did was they hid under God's power, and they said, if I'm going to kill you, it's because God wants me to kill you. And many examples are shown in history that Ibn Ziyad is asking Imam al-Abidin, what is your name? He says, Ali. He says, didn't God kill Ali already? See, he's asking the question like Karbala was God's decree. So this notion of predestination, what it does is it paralyzes a person. Because it makes the person think that I'm just an actor, God has written the act, and I'm just acting it. And there's nothing I can do about it. Which is absurd, total lie. In fact, what it does is it makes all the good people useless and makes all the bad people good. This is deadly. Moral death, if you want to talk about it. So please do not think that, God must have decreed this, so it's going to happen. Yes, there is a decree in Allah's system, and I'll describe it very briefly. It's the system of Allah. Allah's system is as follows. That's the decree. The decree is, if you lie, you're going to get caught. You build a house of cards, it's weak. You build a firm foundation, it's strong. You speak the truth, you win. Those are predestined systems of Allah. If you're generous, you succeed. See? If you're kind, giving, forgiving, loving, you succeed. If you're harsh, stingy, wretched, wicked, etc., you fail. You may pass for a short period of time, but the decree is you will 100% fail. No thief has ever gotten away with his crime, even though with death. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, every deed, فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَى وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَى. You will see it, whether you like it or not. So Allah says you can't escape it. So that's the limited free will we have. This discussion about proactivity is in that limited scope. And that's the only thing that's under trial of Judgment Day. Allah will not judge me for my date of birth, will not judge me for my gender, will not judge me for my height, my skin color, my eye color, my family, will not judge me for any of those physical traits in the universe that I have no control of. He will not judge me as to why the earth is spherical, why the earth is the size that it is, why the gravitational force is where it is. None of the above. The only judgment is the judgment Allah will hold me liable for are my moral judgments that I made to either promote myself or demote myself. That's what's under judgment. Hence, proactivity is entirely within that scope and nothing more, nothing less. I hope I'm making sense. Okay. If I don't, please just raise your hand. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I do not change the condition of a people. Now when I read this verse, I was really, at first I didn't understand it fully. I mean, I knew that means Allah is telling me I need to go and do something. But I asked myself, why Allah do you want me to change? You created me, you put me in this universe. Deep down, when you break it down, you will see that actually what Allah is saying is, I could have put you in paradise. I could have created you straight in paradise. I could have had angels serving you forever. But what's your value? You have no value. I give you a simple, very classic example, and you will know what I'm talking about. If we look at paradise as an analogy of $1 billion, let's say $1 trillion. Two people have it. Two people have $1 trillion. That's an enormous amount of wealth. But one inherited it. The other one earned it from nothing. Halal went for it. That's a very important underlying point there. Because we seem to have a lot the other way. So, I ask you now, without batting an eye, who's better? Because if it's quantification, you'll find it's equal. But the minute you go into qualitative analysis, which is where everything lies, not in quantity, it's quality. Everything in life lies in the domain of qualities, not quantities. You'll immediately say what? The latter, the second. Of course the second. But why? They both have the trillion. Let's be Machiavelli for a moment. As you know, Machiavelli was a famous philosopher who said that the ends does not have to be justified by the means. It means you can cheat, lie, kill, steal. As long as you reach your object, it's fun. Lie and cheat, but you got what you want. It's known as the Machiavellian principle. Well, in Islam, Machiavellian principle is haram. Imam Jafar Sadiq says, you cannot achieve virtue through vice. You cannot lie once, you cannot be a Robin Hood to rob from the rich to feed the poor. You cannot do that. So then we know that such an individual who has this wealth and earned it, their value just went up. Allah is doing that for us. He said, when I put you in paradise, I want you to have participated in it. This is an extra mercy Allah gave me. Besides my existence, besides my intelligence, He says, I want you to step into paradise willfully. Now if you look at the entire Quran, you will see that Allah talks to me. He commands me, but He talks to me. أَلَيْسَ اللَّهُ بِأَحْكَمِ الْحَاكِمِينَ? Isn't Allah the wisest of the wise? You know what resonates the most with me in this conversation in the Quran? Is Allah considers me worthy of being talked to. You know, you don't have deep conversations with a fool. You don't go to a donkey and say, let's have a philosophical debate right now. You don't do that, because that donkey is a creation who doesn't have the capacity based on my capacity. He has capacity, but his capacity is different from mine. So Allah says, do you connect? No. Imagine Allah, who is so much greater, infinitely greater than me. He's talking to me, and He is encouraging me, and He is discouraging me. Wow. Allah says, do you understand your position in life? You're not some aberration. You're not some accident that just came. You were placed here to fulfill an objective of being proactive. And if you do not, you fail. So I have set this foundation. I hope you're feeling it. Now I'm saying to you, all of us in this room, every one of us has been commissioned to do that. Not, I'm on the sidelines, Prophet, Imam, Quran, Maulana, Ayatullah, Marjan. You do it. I'll just sit on the sidelines and I'll watch. No. No. If you and I do that, we fail. Because it's like saying to Allah, oh Allah, you gave me all these tools, here, take it back, I can't use it. Quick, final point. Whenever we have problems in society, and we put the hands up and say, oh Allah, why don't you fix this problem? Allah replies to me, why don't you fix it? We say, no, but Allah, you are mighty. The answer that comes is, if I fix it, then I take your free will away. Are you ready for that? If you ever want to insult a human being, take their free will away. Imprison them. Don't ask for their opinions. Person says, I don't know, be quiet. I don't want to listen to you. You've just insulted me. That's right, I just took your free will away. I put you in prison, and you're going to be like a dog, and I'll tell you when to wag your tail. Who likes that? Flip it the other way. See these young teenagers who are turning 16, 17? Their greatest moment is getting a license. If you want to know somebody's birthday, go to the motor vehicle department. Most people go to the motor vehicle department signing for a license. You know, that's your birthday today, because you couldn't wait an hour longer. Why? I want my autonomy. To be able to put a key into this, ignition and turn it? Wow. It is cathartic. It's nirvana. And I look at a child and I say, wow, that's incredible. The power of autonomy. When I work with kids, I always look at them. I have a 10-year-old. I said, how important are you? He says, I'm a kid. I said, I'm going to give you responsibility. Really, Brother Sandy, you're going to give me responsibility? I said, yeah, you're going to fulfill a job for me. Really? I said, yeah, you're my representative. Wow. You should see this kid who had no interest in something. Suddenly they're energized, energetic. They're so cautious. They're precautious. They're into it. SubhanAllah. I said, look, all it took was a little change of attitude. SubhanAllah. It's dormant in us, brothers and sisters. That's what I'm talking about. So when you and I say, why isn't Allah fixing something? Allah replies to me, I will, but I take your free will away. You decide. And I swear, in 1 trillion years, I never want my free will to be taken away. Allah says, Inna hadaynahu as-sabila, imma shakiran wa imma kafura. We guided you to the right path, whether you are grateful or ungrateful. So act on it. Salat Okay, anybody have a question to what I just stated, by the way? Please, I usually don't use PowerPoints. This was a very on-the-fly kind of creation. Actually, I'm developing a very intricate model. As I'm progressing with my projects, as you know, we're doing many philanthropic projects around the world on a very grand scale, but small relative to what we can do as a community. But I feel extremely energized by Allah's grace to have been given this opportunity growing up in the West and to have the background that we have to do something for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I know some of you here, my brother Ali Sufani, I know is very active, mashallah, for what he's doing in the community. A few like you that I know, I can see it in your faces here. You are those kinds of people who've realized that yes, it's our work, and we need to do this till we die. And I tell you, nothing is more empowering in life. We're hardwired to be charitable. Harvard University did a study where they gave two groups of people money. One group could only buy something for themselves, another could only buy something for others. And the results were unanimous that those who bought things for others were the happiest. You would think if I bought something for myself, I'll be happy. No, we are hardwired to be charitable. Proactivity is about the charitable. So let me quickly, if you have any questions, please, if you don't, put your hands up. I will point the finger at you, and I will ask you a question. And you won't like it. So please be ready. If you have a question, though? No? All right, let me set the standards very simply. Proactivity is a very nice word. It's nice. Let's be proactive. Yeah. Let's promote good. Of course. Let's forbid evil. MashaAllah. SubhanAllah. A'udhu billah. But then when it comes down to the practical applications, what do I do? Where do I reach? What do you mean promote good? Who decides what's good? How far is good? So I'm just going to open up some principles for us to understand, and you will see that there are some basic protocols Allah has laid in the Quran, that if you simply follow these principles, I will guide you. None of us here can dare claim, especially myself, to say, oh, I have the answer to the problems, and I know how to find solutions. Whoever says there's a liar. Nobody has totality of understanding on how to solve complex issues in life except by Allah's infinite help, and He guides us. But there's this power of tawakkul that I'll share with the examples of Ashab al-Kahf. There's a beautiful analogy that the Quran exposes that when I saw that, and I read it over and over, it made me realize it opened up a whole world for me to see. Something I never saw before. And I get energized today. Everywhere I go, I see that Ashab al-Kahf. This Quran constantly is giving me. So therefore, let me conclude by the way, there is no motivating book in the universe like the Quran. And there's no greater motivational system than Islam. And there's no greater power to the motivation than the followers of Ahlul Bayt. Hands down. Salat coming in? Very good. Let me just say, proactivity in Islam. Yeah, go ahead, please. Let me answer the question. Yes. Is this from here?
This is from here.
I know, I've seen kids with their parents, sitting across the dining table and he's texting. I said, who are you texting to? I said, your father's in front of you. Yeah, but we talk so much better on. It's all hard-coded, It's evidence. This is the problem where you end up developing bipolar characteristics, You don't even know how to say Assalamu alaikum anymore. But I see kids who are so vocal, they're so social online, but you look at it and can't look at it. It says, hello, Assalamu alaikum. What happened to you? All I know is how to click, I'm good at this. Bipolar characteristics. We got to get that out of here. Anyway, this is a good question. Listen, you said that asking Allah to fix something for us takes away our free will, but doesn't He say in the Quran, ask Him because He's capable of all things even though we're not? Excellent question. Thank you for asking. What Allah is saying, Ad'uni astajib lakum, He said, ask me to help you fix the thing. Allah is not saying, let me fix it for you. Can you imagine when a child wants to grow up and says, son, don't do anything, I'll do everything for you. Versus saying, son, ask me if you need my help. There's a big difference in the attitude, isn't it? So when Allah says, Ad'uni astajib lakum, it's not Allah saying, let me do everything for you. No. If you look at the whole history of why prophets were killed and suffered, it's because the people didn't join to help. Why did our imams go to prison and get killed? Because the people didn't listen. So why were the imams so subjected to that? Allah is saying to us, the object of your purpose in life is to engage with my leadership. If you do not engage, my prophets cannot fulfill the objective that they were sent in with maximum potential. Unless the society indulges in it, it's impossible. That's why that ayah in Surah Al-Ra'd, Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin. And look, the ayah starts with inna. This is decreed, it's firm. Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta, it's conditional. Yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. If you and I do not indulge in it, Allah says, it's not going to happen. You want to be a couch potato and sit home all day, and you want to sit all day and you're praying to God to send wealth to you? It's not going to happen. You better get off that couch, you go and get yourself ready and shape up and tighten your belt, or else it's not coming to you. That's the answer. I hope I'm making sense. It's a very good question. If you have any more?
Yeah, you do.
Go ahead.
The next question that came in, I think goes back to the topic, is how does one become proactive? 3 simple steps that one should do for someone who has not been proactive in his...
Okay, excellent. This is the whole discussion. This is the whole idea. First and foremost, you have to have that desire. Now, remember, it's not linear. Everything I'm speaking in life is not linear. I hope you understand what I mean by linear versus parallel. We usually say, I'm not going to do tabligh until I know everything. And then I'm going to go teach people. This is linear thinking. Life is not linear. Life is parallel. While you're learning, you're teaching. While you're teaching, you're learning. It's parallel. Okay, so that's very important. So for me to be proactive, I need to have a vision. But my vision will clarify as I have experience. And there is no greater teacher in life than experience. Experience is a master teacher. Because when you have experienced something, you have empathy, not sympathy. It's different. When I'm sympathetic, I have not experienced you. But when I'm empathetic, it means I had the same feeling. Having that experience changes the dynamics. Let me give you a quick example. You find that our maraji typically considered eating the food of Christians haram, najis. Right? Then you find, for example, Muhsin Hakim. You find some maraji. When they travel, you see, and when they went into Europe, and they realized, wait, this is impossible, they changed their fatwa, they changed their rulings. Not because it was wrong the first time, but the experience gave them another light to re-evaluate the positions. So experience is fundamental. Quran says, "Siru fil ard," travel, go meet people. Experience, it becomes a teacher. So one of the best experiences in life is to have it happen to you, but when you make the choices, learn from the mistakes, and you build this visual map of what to do to perfect oneself. But at the end of the day, experience or no experience, the fundamental question of who am I, why am I here, what am I supposed to do, is so innate even a child asks that question. And that's the essence of proactivity. That the minute you know the root of your existence, and you realize this enormous gift of Allah, you get animated in the right direction. People who do wrong things have convinced themselves there is no day of judgment. Or they have convinced themselves that I'm living in a shark tank, you see, survival of the fittest, and if I don't eat you first, you're going to eat me. That mentality is why many people are criminals. Saddam was like that. Yazid was like that. In fact, Yazid and Muawiyah used to say, he says, this man claims there's a day of judgment. There's no day of judgment. He claims to receive revelation. There's no revelation. Quran even says that. See? The angels are asking people like Yazid and Muawiyah on the day of judgment, أَلَمْ يَأْتِكُمْ نَذِيرٌ? Didn't the warner come to you? قَالُوا بَلَىٰ قَدْ جَاءَنَا نَذِيرٌ فَكَذَّبْنَا وَقُلْنَا مَا نَزَّلَ اللَّهُ مِنْ شَيْءٍ إِنْ أَنْتُمْ إِلَّا فِي ضَلَالٍ كَبِيرٍ. Were you not? Did you not get a warner? It says, yes, but when they came, we belied them. We told them it doesn't exist. It's a lie. وَقُلْنَا مَا نَزَّلَ اللَّهُ مِنْ شَيْءٍ وَقَالُوا لَوْ كُنَّا نَسْمَعُ أَوْ نَعْقِلُ مَا كُنَّا فِي أَصْحَابِ السَّعِيرِ. They will say, if only we listened and paid attention, we would not be inmates of hell. So the principles of proactivity is built on that. That my vision is very clear. I have a purpose in life. And I'm going to execute that purpose. And in that mission now, I'll never cheat you. I'll never lie to you. I'll never steal. Notice many people in our community cheat. They lie. They steal. They take each other's wealth away. Father to son, brother to brother, sister, husband, wife. You see it happening? It's an indicator that the day of judgment is not clear in their minds. That means their vision is short-term. And the minute you become short-term, you become a fool. And when you become a fool, you're a loser of dunya wal akhirah. That's proactivity that I'm talking about. So let's continue with do I hit the right button? Okay, our obligation, first and foremost, if you ever want to understand as a Muslim, and I can discuss this in a non-Muslim audience, and everybody will resonate just fine. Our obligation is to promote good and forbid evil. كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر. Fundamentally, Imam Husseini goes to Karbala, he says, I'm going to promote good and forbid evil. He leaves the will to Ibn Hanafiya, he says, this is the reason I'm going. I am going to do Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahy anil Munkar. We in Ziyad Waritha, we say, أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر. Right? وأطعت الله ورسوله. You obeyed Allah and the Prophet until you achieved certainty. Oh, Imam Hussein, we bear witness but you are a promoter of good, forbidden of evil. You find in Surah Luqman, Luqman is saying to his son, Ya bunayya aqim as-salah, wa'mur bil-ma'ruf, wanha 'anil munkar, wasbir 'ala ma asabak. This is the fundamental principle. What I'm speaking about is what we call the vision and mission of life. In any business you go, people will ask you, what's your mission statement? What's your vision? I remember when I was talking to Brother Jawad, Jawad Kaki used to be he's the ex-vice president of Microsoft. He said to me something very interesting. He said, when we were working with Microsoft in the early 80s, he said, we wanted a PC on everybody's desk. There should be one PC on everybody's desk on Earth. That's the vision. That's what Bill Gates' vision was. It's very simple. It's stupefyingly simple, but it's profoundly powerful. Because if you maintain that vision, you produce it. He said that was a simple vision. Now imagine you go back 25 or 30 years ago and somebody says, my vision is to put a PC on everybody's table. You start to check, come on, that's ridiculous. Then you have a multi-billion-dollar company. He says, how'd you do it? He said, it was a very simple vision. Really? I thought it would be a complicated set of protocols for you to reach that. No, complication is not the object in productivity and proactivity. Simplification. You simplify to the lowest common denominator, which we call Occam's razor. You look at the most sufficient, efficient method of reaching from one point to the next, and that's what Allah wants us to do. Our prophets and imams were masters of efficiency. They would do things, I remember, I would read stories of Imam Ali having 4 years and 9 months as a Khalifa, as a temporal Khalifa. He established more institutions than you and I could do in a lifetime. How did he do it? While he was busy defending, he was being attacked, he was doing all kinds of things, zikr at night, and never missed a moment towards Allah. He's teaching me. He says, I'm your leader, I'm efficient, and I'm proficient, and I produce. I don't sit around and talk, I do things. Many of us are masters of talk. We're not masters of do things. Whereas Islam is a religion of do, not talk. لِمَ تَقُولُونَ مَا لَا تَفْعَلُونَ. Why do you say that which you don't do? Quran said. It's detestable to Allah that you say things that you don't do. So promote good and evil. And you can only, now when someone asks you what is good and what is evil, this is where I'm talking about projecting proactivity to its ultimate, is to rational philosophical understanding that when I'm moving, I know I need to fulfill that. So I'm not only a businessman who wants to put a PC on someone's table, but I am a spiritual leader who wants to change your life for the best. Not only do I want to put a PC, but I want to put the right software in it, I want to guide it, and I want to change the dynamics of my community forever. It's a whole different ballgame. See, Microsoft, you take Apple, they were very materialistic. Steve Jobs was a materialistic individual. Brilliant, but what is the object? Maximize profits. No problem. A believer says, I've got a different kind of profit. My profit is eternal. It's not only material. I make billions and trillions of dollars, but I also please Allah. To do holistic kind of motivational productivity is the hardest thing in the world. But it's also the easiest if you strike the bullseye. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is my ultimate source of the ultimate good. I can't stress this more. I'm going to say something very simple. I was at the University of Colorado recently presenting, and a PhD math professor raised his hand, a very smart individual, and he raised his hand, I want to debate you. I was speaking about Islam. I said, no problem. So after my presentation, we sat down, there was like 50 people. His akhlaq was impeccable, I must say. He's an atheist, but his akhlaq was impeccable. Islamic akhlaq. So he's asking me questions. He says, in science, you're a scientist, I'm a scientist, we have stable systems. We have fixed measurement systems. So we can validate what's wrong and what's right through fixations. When you have constants, it's how you build science. Science is built on a core principle of constancy. Without constants, you have no science. If the constants constantly, redundantly constantly vary, there's no science. So there's a fixed system. He says, what's your religious fixed system? Because I hear people telling me stories about dreams and miracles and prophets traveling and doing all kinds of funny things. How do I validate that? So I say it's very simple. The fixed system we have on the other side, which is the spiritual side. We also believe in the scientific side. The spiritual side is God. He is the most fixed system you'll ever find. لا تبديل لخلق الله. ذلك الدين القيم. God doesn't change his system. There could be nothing more fixed in the universe than God. In terms of moral principles, every time you think of perfection, ultimate, absolute good, it takes you back to Allah. And Allah doesn't change. And He's consistent and persistent and ever present. See? The Quran says, إِن تَكُن مِثْقَالَ حَبَّةٍ مِّنْ خَرْدَلٍ فَتَكُنْ فِي صَخْرَةٍ أَوْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ أَوْ فِي الْأَرْضِ يَأْتِ بِهَا اللَّهُ. Whether you go to the skies, you split the earth, split the rock, God is present, fixed. He's everywhere. You see? So when you answer that question, this is my proactivity. I want to move, but Allah, you're my fixed system. I trust you, and I know everything you've guaranteed me is going to come true. Now I won't dangle in my transactions. Money will come in my pocket. I won't think that should I embezzle 50%. Or I don't get amnesia when I borrow money. You know, they say, right? When you borrow money, it's like a wedding, and then you pay back, it's like a funeral. Yeah, because you get amnesia. You don't go through those, variations in life or promises that we don't keep. Whereas Quran says, يُوفُونَ بِالنَّظْرِ وَيَخَافُونَ يَوْمًا كَانَ شَرُّهُ مُسْتَطِيرًا. Look at the examples in the Quran. Allah, I read these verses, I tell you, it strikes your heart and it massages you. It says, go. I'm energizing you so much, you will never get more energy in your life than this. I swear to Allah. And I'm just beginning to realize in this late age in my life, wow, where have I been all my life? Besides recycling my own religion, I haven't been proactive. Shame on me. So please, good and evil is only from Allah. Simple. If humans decide morals, what's good and what's evil, they will be wrong 100%. Because you can never judge moral arguments through a vote of democracy. It's absurd. And I'll prove it to you. If people say that there is no God, this is the argument I always have with atheists, by the way, the moral argument, they cannot sustain it, they choke. You say to them, where do you get your morals from? They say, I decide with my own heart. I said, okay. So your good could be my evil. So then what you've said is survival of the fittest. If I'm stronger than you, I can kill you. And my killing you is as good as you dying. It's absurd. How about 51% vote? We're all going to decide what's halal and what's haram. Okay, then what Hitler did was halal, because the majority of Germany considered the Aryan race to be superior, and therefore what Hitler did in his own country, he was ethically right. How about people in the villages who decide to eat each other, and they take a vote and 52% decide, yes, cannibalism is right. From a moral principle, I have to admit that they were right, because 52% voted that eating another human being is halal. Can we do that? Can we all have a vote today to say whether pork should be halal? No. Moral arguments have to be above us. Even Immanuel Kant, who is a famous philosopher, says there is a higher authority that controls the universe, that maintains the moral standards, and no human being can touch it. They just must submit to it. So that's what I'm talking about. Believe in Allah, please. All proactivity without Allah in it is shooting in the dark. Okay? Ultimate template of the best moral cause of our existence. It defines our existence. The purpose is to struggle to elevate our own status, which I mentioned before. Exercise our free will to receive more mercy and trust in Him after careful planning. So these are the basic principles of our obligations in how to be proactive. Now, we listen to majlises. This is the irony. We listen to majlises. We come for prayers. We listen to stories about the Holy Prophets. And we say, MashaAllah, we do not hate that. But do we really follow it? No. It's called drum beating. We beat drums all the time to make ourselves feel good. But this attitude, blasé attitude, God, you're the greatest. Your Prophet, subhanallah. Imams, MashaAllah. Then, well, that's it. You do it. Inshallah, I'll stand next to you on Judgment Day and I'll come in prayers with you. Core beliefs are essential to drive proactivity. Maintain pure intentions, please. I can't stress this. I see so many projects around the world. I see so many philanthropic projects. I am surrounded by people spending millions of dollars. Lately, I've been blessed to see people doing phenomenal projects. but some of them are not driven with the core intentions of purity. And when I see that, not that I'm going to be the judge, I know this one's going to fail. I just know it, because it's predestined. قُلْ جَاءَ الْحَقِّ وَزَهَقَ الْبَاطِلِ إِنَّ الْبَاطِلَ كَانَ زَهُوقًا. Truth is ever prevalent, false is ever failing. People who build empires with millions of dollars and palaces and empire business, but it's built on the wrong foundation of haram. I just look at them. I said, Your Honor, you're a walking time bomb. You're going to implode, if not explode. You're done. But people feel so comfortable with it, not realizing, Allah says, I promise you, this is going to happen. Do not be fooled. People say, but look, how come he's going so high? Allah says, did you not know that the higher you go, the harder you fall? Value the reality. Please. A smart, proactive individual assesses the environment. Imam Ali says, even when you go and lecture to a community, examine the community before you go speak to them, so that you know how to articulate the words that meets their standards. Understand the community, the dimensions of the community. Are they prepared to receive you? And don't tell them more than they can handle. You may kill them. Give the medicine according to the source. So that analysis factor is essential. And Quran is filled with examples on how to analyze things, validate things. Look at the core position and say, what's my objective in doing this? How's my community? This will come through experience, and you'll see that the minute you start to uncover the onion skin, you'll start to see realities, and no one's touching it, but you can touch it. And you almost become like this golden duck. You know, the minute you touch it, it turns into gold. People say, how do you know that? He says, well, I saw it. If you ever see successful business people, they see opportunities and they go after it. But I tell you, if you don't see opportunities, I don't care how smart you are, you're never going to get it. You can be the smartest person in the world. If you don't see opportunities, how do you get it? It's not going to come to you. No way. And you know, the interesting thing is, all of us are experts in seeing opportunities if we can get it. Use valid sources and representatives. If I'm going to go towards a project, I need the right sources. Often people get tangled up with the wrong kind of people who give them grandiose ideas. They go in that direction only to be robbed because the satanic systems were ever waiting to fool into coming to invest in their property, but it was a scam. Do your research. Check it. Before you write that check, says, hold on, test them. Make them sweat a little bit. See if they're real. Shake them a little bit. Don't just say, I believe in you, here's my check. You're done. They're knocking all over the bank. Says, we got you. Be smart. Same with my proactivity in Islam. I want to do a project, assess. What do I do first? Will it succeed? Check around. See the people. See the analysis. Vision and mission and vision should be focused. You see, Allah says, قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. My brothers and sisters, I swear to you, I have seen some of the wealthiest people worth in the billions. You look at them in the eye, the ones who have no faith in Allah, they're like dead carcasses walking on earth. They've got giant palaces. Money you can't imagine. But they're looking at you with hollow eyes. And Allah says, you see that? You can't get it. He thinks he's successful. He's not. He's burdened. This bala is going to drag him down. But if he had faith in me, he could be so rich and he could be flying to me with happiness. But he missed the boat. So I'm going to keep stressing. Please, vision and mission. If you ever want to succeed, I'm telling you, you want to get energy, plug it in the right outlet. You plug it in the wrong outlet, you're dead. The problem is we all want it. Everybody wants success. Everybody wants to be rich. Everybody wants to be happy. I've never found a human being who can think who doesn't want to be happy. The problem is most people are going in the wrong direction, and hence they never become happy. Okay. All action should focus on two principles. Every project that I've ever done, I realized that two core principles must be maintained. One, is you must have damage control systems in it. Whatever you're going to do, you're going to block whatever's happening from further degradation. So let me give you an example. I see children indulging in drugs. Simple, very simplified concept. I see children getting distracted to go into drugs. I analyze, and I say, why are they getting into drugs? Oh, because somebody out there is making money. Okay? And this child is frustrated. There are too many material objectives, and they cannot fulfill it. Hollywood and Bollywood has created this facade that everybody wants to be like, but it's not real, and we've become very unrealistic. And now, things are not meeting to our standards, so we're frustrated. Dad is not hugging me. Father doesn't say salam to me. Father doesn't love me. Mother doesn't love me. Father is busy with money all day. Mother is busy with money. Father is busy chasing another woman. Mother is busy, whatever. The child is frustrated. He needs an outlet. He's going to say, well, I'm angry. Typically kids who go astray are usually innately, intrinsically in their heart, they're annoyed because of the reaction. And they see that things are not working right. And when they compare with everyone else, the grass is green on the other side. Which then leads them to now associate with the wrong kinds of friends. There's a natural gravitation. It's very fascinating. You know, at the camp, people ask me, like, you know, you have 350, 400 kids who come to camp. How do you know them? He says, you seem to know a lot of them. I said, I have a method. I know a few of them. And I read their faces, I know their backgrounds. I know them quite well. And I know their characters. Now, when the new kid comes on the block, I watch who does he make friends with. Because birds with the same feathers will flock together. So the minute there's a deviant child who I know, and he makes friends with another new kid on the block, I know this kid's similar to this one, because they found their niche. You can find it. It's very simple. It's sometimes amazing. It's right on staring at you. You see a kid who's spiritual, find a spiritual person. And I know a spiritual person. They've already sifted. You know, 300 kids floating around, they've already figured out, that's my friend. That's my friend. So you're watching as an observer, you're watching this gravitation of groups. Now, every group is a rahmah. Even the deviant child too is a rahmah, is a blessing. He's also a gem of Allah's creation. This one who's spiritual is a gem of Allah's creation. Different stages. And Allah says, deal with each one by their own medicine. But this is how you sift. But what I'm trying to say is that the way we would do damage control is I say, why do kids get lost? Because there's no intervention. There's no communication. So you educate the father. I had a kid who was so on the verge of committing suicide because his father never told him, I love you. And one day we went skiing. We were sitting on the bed. All of us were talking to each other. And he broke out, profusely crying. And this boy never cries. And he's crying, and he's talking to me. With the other boys, he says, I don't know, all of you have such beautiful fathers, I don't know. And his father is a beautiful person, a very pious man. So I knew there's a problem, that's damage. You see, that's damage. Damage is taking place. What do you do to intervene? So we caressed him, made him feel good. Immediately, as soon as we got back from the ski trip, I addressed the father. I said, well, how often do you speak to your son? He said, not much. I said, why not? Don't you love him? He says, I do. I said, then why don't you talk to him? He said, I don't know how. I said, you got 4 sons. He says, I know, but I don't know how to talk to him. I get nervous. I tremble. And when I get near my son, I can't handle it. I go, I said, that's your son. He says, I know, but I just can't hug him. I said, we're going to teach you how to do that. He said, how? I said, I'm going to call you near your son, and I'm going to hug him first. And I'm going to start the conversation. And I know you're going to take that first step, and we're going to break this ice. You should have seen he turned blue when his son came, because now he was aware of this hug that was pending. It was just a hug. SubhanAllah, it's so amazing. He came, started talking to him. I said, you know, mashallah, you have such a wonderful father. I was praising the father. The boy looked at his father, looked down, he says, I know. He wasn't giving my contact. So I said to him, I said, why aren't you looking at your father? He says, I don't know, I just get scared of him. I said, why? He's not going to bite you. That conversation got so warm that I hugged him. I said, you're my brother and I love you. And I love you so much because Allah created you and I love you. So the father looked at that and he felt that warmth. And then suddenly they turned to each other and you could see there was a slight hesitation. Then they hugged. My God, it was like a cathartic moment. You know, it was like high energy. You felt this like, you know, on the radar, just go up energy. And they hugged. This boy today is very successful in Dubai, making very good money, married, and his favorite son is this boy. Successful, and he always called and said, I can't thank you enough. And I'm thinking, it was only a hug. It wasn't money, it wasn't power, I didn't have to make networks, I didn't have to build infrastructure. That's what I mean by damage control, okay? Damage control, very important. Second, promotion of excellence. And another analogy I give you, imagine you're on a boat. There's a hole in the boat is sinking. You don't think of the aerodynamics of the boat. You don't think of the speed of the engine. You think of blocking that hole from damage, further damage. You don't want to sink. Plug it. Not linear, but I'm just giving a simple example. That would be linear. Plug it, and then worry about the speed of the boat. Same with our society. We have too much damage taking around us. Today, statistically in Dearborn, there's an abortion clinic in Dearborn. 90% of the patrons are our sisters. Shia sisters. Abortion clinic. You talk about drug rehab centers in Michigan. Okay, 70% are patronized by our community. This is astronomical. You know, we might say, no, we are Shia, we are Ahlul Bayt, we are Muslims, we have the Quran, we have the Imams, we are free from this. No, it's become so pervasive, it's impossible. That's what I'm talking about, damage control. What are we going to do? Second is promotion of excellence. Once you stop that, you start to say, what can we do to enhance our children? How do they become better leaders? How do they become better role models? How do they become great energizers for other children to take position so that we raise the bar to our standards? Any questions so far? Is this all making sense? Are you following me? Then please, look, I don't want to give a lecture. This is supposed to be a dialogue, so please just jump in. Yes, let me press.
Which one comes first?
Both are the simultaneous. As I mentioned, there's no linear system. In other words, you do damage control and excellence at the same time. I'll give you some examples on some of the projects we're doing. I'm constantly, my vision is always, how much of this is damage control? So I'll give you an example. When we started our youth program in New York, you know Sanford is one of them. There's a few brothers here, I know, sisters that I know. When we saw them 10, 12-year-olds, I came back from the university, I said, I need to do damage control. What I'm going to do is, if this child is not going to be given an alternative lifestyle, he's going to associate with the wrong kind, and he's going to do the wrong thing. I don't know that, I'm assuming. I said, for me, it's essential that I take over his life on a weekend, and I control it in a way and give him a safe environment so that he is busy doing things. As long as I keep him busy on the weekends, and on the weekdays, you empower them to such a degree that they look at you as a role model, then I'm going to distract them from the satanic method. And I know that by the time he reaches his 20s, he will already be stable, that it will be very difficult for him to violate Allah's law after that, because his lifestyle will already be tracked. That's what I mean by damage. It's simultaneous, but you damage control, but at the same time, while you're with them, you're encouraging them to be leaders, encouraging them to be great, to have self-confidence. And when they walk out, they feel proud to be humans and to be Muslims. You have a question?
I was actually going to just stop and ask, folks, if you have any questions, to raise your hands and ask them right now. Don't wait for the questions. I realize that the 10-minute speech turned into 1 hour, and this is great content, so I'm not stopping and letting go with the flow. But do ask your questions. I think there was one from the ladies.
So, when I'm reading this, I feel like a lot of these principles, while they do apply for working on a project, they could also apply for everyday life also.
Yeah, by the way, proactivity is not project-based.
Okay.
Proactivity is holistic.
Sorry.
I agree with you. So as a human being, not only project, my life, being a husband, being a wife, being a father, being a daughter, being a son, doesn't matter. Proactivity is everything, it's holistic. But please go ahead.
So in that example of working on yourself personally to make yourself a more proactive person,
Okay, let's look at our community here. Damage control. How would we do damage control? Give me, can anybody give me an example of a potential damage taking place in our community right now that needs to be addressed? Okay, I mentioned that as an example. Drugs is obvious. How about sexual indecency? Very, very prevalent. It's so in our doors, in our homes, right? It's everywhere. Children today are taught express your sexuality. Be free. Today with Facebook, I see sisters, even brothers, who are Hajj in public, but they are without hijab on Facebook. I see boys who take their shirts off, showing their pectorals. And then, they don't realize I'm watching. So I send them a text message, excuse me, what are you doing? And one boy says, click here if you think I'm cute. So I replied, yeah, you're cute. So he replied, Brother Hassanain, what are you doing? I said, you forgot you're in public domain. What's your problem? What is this click here if you think I'm cute? You got a serious inferiority complex? Somebody needs to tell you I'm cute? Like, walk around with a big banner. You think I'm cute? Please, because I'm going to die. What is this nonsense? Like this, I'm serious. There's a serious social problem. And I'm saying to them, you're a Muslim for God's sakes. You've got non-Muslim friends. What kind of a role model are you? They might think, you know what? Role model? I'm not a role model. It takes me back to the initial question. Yeah, Prophet, Imam, Allah, Quran, you're great. Me? I'm a spectator. No one's a spectator. When you and I go 6 feet down, we're not spectators. When the angel is asking, Rabbi, I'm just a spectator. Min kitabik. Wallah, I don't know. Ask the Prophet, he knows. It doesn't work that way. So please, there is no spectatorship and we are active, but damage is sexual indecency, good example. What's another example? Come on, give me some poisons in the community. How about ignorance? They say if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. We have a serious problem of ignorance. If you see our average community, and I'm not degrading anything, I include myself in it, the level of knowledge we have about life, politics, social systems, religious philosophy is at the bare minimum. Like, really? Like, you can argue with Tawheed like this? You didn't think of this? She says, no, never had a chance. Yeah, you're busy being a couch potato watching all those late night movies, or you were on Mortal Kombat, killing people and beheading people. You ever see, by the way, these mind-numbing games? Kids are addicted. That's another serious problem. Kids who are addicted to these games, and they're so prevalent. And today technology is so cheap. Everybody can get it. Kids, some of them have 2-3 units, and they're playing. You give them 1 minute, they're just glued on it. And you ever wonder why they're glued on it? Because they're taught, don't think, just be a drone. Play, get lost in this world of cyber world. No thinking, no proactive thinking. Then when you turn on a Hollywood movie, you have a problem. Flex your big biceps, whip out a massive gun, and blow his head off. And if it's not enough, bomb him. Special effects flying all over the place, the body parts fly. Wow, that was so cool. You can talk, conversation, solutions, so boring. Step outside, got a problem? Shoot him. Girl says, no, I don't want to go out with you. The guy gets angry, goes and gets a gun. This is Columbine, all these. Kids, 12, 13-year-olds. She said no to me. That's it, machine gun. Why? Hollywood taught me this. And don't worry. It's cartoons, by the way. You ever watch cartoons? You see what the Roadrunner, what's his name? Right? See the Roadrunner goes across the building, or then it gets blown up. And then the next thing, the Roadrunner's running again. The child says, oh, so if you get blown up, it's only a temporary thing, so you can keep blowing. You see? And then you go over a building, you go straight horizontal, and then you look down like, oops, and then you fall, which never happens in physics, by the way. But a child is so misconstrued reality, they need a reality check. These kinds of videos are very dangerous to the psyche of a child. We don't realize it. We think these are innocuous little cartoons, but they actually build their superstructure, their mental structure. And many times parents don't pay attention to this. I know my daughter, one time she was watching Madagascar, and suddenly she started using a certain word. I said, where'd you get that word from? She says, well, it was in Madagascar. I said, wow, that's a cartoon. It's already got those. And you see them, even like these cartoons, Simba and all these, they're all love stories. They're built around love stories. So a young child is already learning how to do love stories. I remember when we were Flushing at that school, PS, what was the school, Hassan? PS 173, right? Yeah, we were taking this class with middle school, I think it was elementary school. You see on Valentine's Day, little kids writing love stories with little hearts. I love you, I love you. I said, they just got off their diapers. What do they do? I love you. Like, I love you. And you write a Valentine's letter, you know? This is like a 4th grader, 3rd grader. What do you know about love? We abuse love so much that it becomes a game. And the evangelical societies have done studies that early dating is detrimental to society. University of Georgia did a study that kids who indulge in early dating tend not to perform well academically. And part of the reason is because their parents are not participating in their education, and therefore they are neglected, and therefore they become more sexual, and therefore they date early. Now, I just spelled one problem. How do we solve that? That's what I'm talking about. The way I would solve that is simply by saying, how do I take this child and give them an alternative? Remember, one rule of thumb, the energy level of a child going towards growth cannot be stopped. You cannot stop them from growing. This notion of stopping growth of a child is absurd. What you have to do is you have to redirect the energy. I'll describe that later on, inshallah. Any other questions? So this is an example of damage control. Yes? Another question? Yeah. Yes?
I just had a comment. Just watching like American shows and like they promote how your parents are always against you. They're gonna try to stop you from not doing things, and that's what is in every show. Instead of in Islam, you know, they promote like you should be friends with your parents and they'll guide you to the right way. And I mean, can you? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a serious problem. Excellent. Thank you for sharing it. Hollywood glamorizes young people and demonizes old people. It's a classic Hollywood thing, because old people are not role models of sexuality. They're role models of discussion. They're role models of introspection, role models of thinking, experience. And Hollywood cannot sell it to one. They like young ones. Replace them. So what they do is they tend to demonize the older generation, which cuts into the heart of the family life, where children now publicly say, I can't wait till I'm 17 so I can get out of this house, you know, and my old dad and my old mom can get rid of them. It's very classic attitude. This attitude is very prevalent in the Western society. It's even Eastern now. That's a disease. How do we solve that? What's another disease? You notice we've talked about 3, 4 of them. We don't have to go too deep, but you get the gist.
Okay.
Yes.
A couple questions. The one question was, how do you deal with the disease that's pornography? And twofold on that.
So here's another one. Pornography. It's a serious disease. Go ahead.
And then medical marijuana.
Yes. Medicinal marijuana. Weed. My God, it's taking us over the storm. And it's become medicinal. It's become halal. According to science. You know, medicinal. You see kids, there was a high school game recently, everybody was smoking, and one boy came to me and says, brother, I'm only 12 years old, and they were offering it to me. So of course, alhamdulillah, this boy is in our program, in our wife's program, and he knew. And he says, of course not, this is poison, I'll never take this. But the point is, it is being offered. He's only 12 years old. I said, look, you get them addicted at a young age, they're done. 80% of our community in Michigan, youth community, smokes weed. 80%. Astronomical. Serious problem. Now, don't get me wrong. You know, I keep talking about Dearborn, 80%, It's not a bad community, it's a wonderful community. But also, you have to understand that they are the most assimilated community in America, assimilated Muslim community. Assimilated means they have taken Western ways as their dominant lifestyle. And what has happened as a result of that is that it's creeping into their families, and destruction, alcohol, drugs, gambling, that's a disease. These are all diseases Quran has mentioned. Gambling, alcohol. I was just in Vegas. I just came back from Vegas. First time in my life I went to Vegas. I've been all my life in America, first time I went to Vegas. And I went to Vegas to lecture, at the Islamic Center. So the funny part was I see the people, and I was testifying, I said, brother, what are you doing this way? I said, I'm going to Vegas. Oh, I said, man, stop the vlog. What are you doing? I said, why, there's no God there? That's Vegas! Sin City! What stays in Vegas, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. When I was on the plane, I was shocked. I was still in Michigan, so getting on a plane, I said, oh my God, this is going to be an ordeal. So when I landed, you could see slot machines everywhere. I mean, if they could put it in the toilets, they do it for you, It's just, get you gambling. And then, I stayed in a hotel. I tried to avoid all these gambling casino places, but I stayed and I could see all this. Everybody was drinking and gambling, to such degrees that I just remember that hamrul naiso, haram for you, stay away from it. It's bad for you. I said, oh Allah, you care for me. I said, if you didn't give me this guidance, I'd be like this person. This is a good person, but look how full they are. So I was standing there, so there was a roulette table, and I was talking to a brother. I said, you see, look at this. They've got cameras here, and they're fooling such people to be spending so much money thinking they're winning. So the lady heard me. She says, oh, I'm winning. I smiled. I said, with due respect, a gambler never wins. Never. You make $1 billion, you're going to gamble it. Because it's a habit is a habit. What are you going to do? You can't get rid of it. You're not going to stop. It's an addiction. Hello? You forgot that part. That's why those casinos are making so much money. I was driving by the strip. I've never seen so much concrete engineering in my life. Monster building. You're talking about huge money, billions. I said, yeah, gambling. It's a business. Alcohol, great business. And I'm thinking Machiavelli, destroy all of these people, just get rich. I said, what are you going to get rich about? You're going to go empty-handed like Fir'aun. What did you really gain? So what, this towering building you built here, what did you get? And I swear, I was in Vegas, I was driving, I didn't go to the strip much, I just passed by. And I was thanking Allah. And when I spoke at the Islamic Center, I said, they said, look, we're a small community, we're so grateful you came. I said, you are the best community. I said, why? I said, you're in the heart of the Sin City, and you're remembering Allah and Ahlul Bayt. You are a wonderful community. So
another question comes in, and this is going to touch some nerves. What do we say about cigarettes? They are more damaging than marijuana, but it's so popular in our communities. Even some of our scholars smoke. Is this not a disease as well? And one thing I'll ask you, brother, is you talk about these diseases. Can you talk about maybe proactive ways that we can...
This is my last page. My last page is about, I want us to feel in this, look, it's senseless for me to talk about this unless you start feeling burdened by problems. You ever see Mothers Against Drunk Driving? You've heard that. Okay. Who are they? They are mothers who lost their sons in drunk driving. Who would join Mothers Against Drunk Driving usually? It's a mother who lost a child. But if you didn't lose a child, you wouldn't start such a program. So notice, nothing hits home more than when it comes to you. The Messenger of Allah says, do not sleep at night without considering your neighbor's state of hunger. This is what I'm talking about. But if you and I are insulated, where my life is rosy, and my car is nice, and my home is nice, and my bank account is good, I don't feel the pain, I'm not going to look for solutions because there is no problem. This discussion right now is for you and I to feel the problem. You want to feel like the ship has got so many holes, and I am worried, are we going to make it to our destination alive? So we're talking about all these problems. They are so prevalent, they're pervasive, they're penetrating into us, and you cannot stop it. I know, I've been doing this public work for 25 years. Parents come to me, my son is this. I had a mother, she said, brother, I'm a millionaire. I'll give you all my wealth. Bring my son back. He's addicted to Vicodin. I don't know what to do, and I'm going to lose him. I looked at her, I said, if you took all the wealth in the universe, it would be difficult for me. I said, but if I came to you 10 years ago, and I told you it would cost you $1,000 to save your son, and sons from ever going there, would you not have invested? She says, I would have. I said, that's the irony. You go to the community and say, let's invest in projects to save our children from going astray. No, brother, we don't have a problem. Now you're ready to give all your wealth. Yeah, but it's too late. Then what? Islam, when people ask me, what is Islam? I said, the power of Islam is prevention is better than cure. Hijab, our hijab with the eyes, is prevention. It's better than cure. This is why Islam stands so high. Okay? So, smoking. Smoking, first of all, in my opinion, smoking is a terrible thing to do. I don't care what you say about what marja. Okay, I am not interested in violating common sense. Something that is poisonous is poisonous. Now, I'm not going to pass a judgment and say, oh, you're going to hell because you smoke, or God is going to punish you. I'm not talking that way. I don't pass judgment because this information came recent. It's quite recent. I used to work for Philip Morris. I used to work for Kraft. Okay, Philip Morris is one of the biggest cigarette producers in the world. R.J. Reynolds is another one. A lot of this data was already known. It was hidden. It was good for business. People who got addicted to smoking, it's an addictive substance. Nicotine is addictive. Al-Maraji realized later on in time that this is a poisonous material and it must be stopped. But they did not pass a judgment against those who were smoking because it was an addiction. And to wean somebody away from addiction requires certain kinds of laws by which you make it makruh and you encourage them to get away from it. So we're not passing judgment. But I detest, and I'm going to say it, and I'm going to say it vociferously, I've said this in Dar es Salaam, I've said it all over the world. I detest anybody who glamorizes smoking. I would never want those young children behind you, those, especially my young brothers, you, the young ones especially, from ever starting this. I don't care if you're a father that smokes. Would you dare give a cigarette to your child to start smoking? Never. Glamorizing this thing to me is poison. And to me, it's very irresponsible for an adult to encourage a child to smoke. You and I may be involved in smoking, okay, inshallah we'll stop and get away from it. But to encourage a child and glamorize it, and say it's cool because you're holding this thing, there's nothing cool about it. It's deadly. And today, for example, in Dearborn, I was in Lebanon, Argile, what they call habal bubble, hookah. They sit there and, smoking this thing. And over there, you pick up the phone, and 30 seconds later, they have it, bring it for you, they light it for you, they bring it in your room. It's glamorized. You go to Edgware Road in London, you can't walk without feeling dizzy with hookah. What is this? Oh, it's cool. And Islam doesn't forbid it. I said, first of all, many of our maraj have made it haram. Habal bubble, by the way, is even more poisonous than cigarettes. Because the substance that comes out of the hot water, it travels through rubber and plastic, and there are small particles of plastic and rubber that gets lodged into your lungs, which is even more dangerous. And you see kids smoking it, women, mothers smoking it. We've glamorized it. We've got new flavors now, all kinds of flavors, fruit flavors. We've glamorized it. If that's $1 billion business. In Islam, it's wrong. And when people ask me this question, I said, I'm going to ask you a simple question. Oh, but then Maulana does it. I said, I never knew that my shahada thing was La ilaha illallah Maulana Rasulullah. When was my shahada thing changed? I don't get it. They said, well, what do you mean? I said, I'd like you to tell me with a straight face. Like if when the Imam Sahib was on reappears, you think he'll sit with this person and hold this thing in his hand? He says, no. I said, but you smoked it. She says, yeah, but I'm not the Imam. No, I'm a spectator. Imam, you're perfect. I'm just a spectator. Remember that. I don't have to do all those work. Allah sent prophets and Imams to do the work. I don't need to be proactive. No. God will do it. Prophet will do it. Imams will do it. This mentality is why people do this. But the minute you feel responsible that you're going to hold something and somebody else is not going to emulate you, well, Allah is going to ask you in Judgment Day, what did you do to represent me? What did you do with my ni'mah? You held that thing? You thought it was cool in front of a child? Why didn't you go secretly and do it? Maybe that would have been better for you than to do it in public. That maybe that child was going to look at you as a public speaker. I've seen public speakers, famous public speakers, sit around after majlis, they go and smoke hookah. I'm open with them. I say to them, excuse me, with due respect to you, you are a role model. How do you do this in public? And by what jurisdiction can you tell me that you are able to hold yourself on a pulpit while you raise and praise Ahlul Bayt when this to me is the antithesis of the ways of Ahlul Bayt. Now you might think I'm being too harsh by saying this. I disagree. I don't think any sane mother or father would want their son addicted to that stuff.
Based on this, I've heard that parents have come out and say that rather than doing it outside, I would rather do it with my son, do it with my own home. What do you say to that?
There's a failure. In other words, there's a lot of damage, I want to do less damage. I was super bankrupt, but now I'm less bankrupt. So I think that's great. I was very, very poor, but I became a little less poor. Is that acceptable? I agree with what you're saying, but you know what that means? I agree. It's like saying I'm throwing my hands in the air and says, you know what, there's nothing I can do about it. Yeah, if I set my standards low, my achievements are going to be low. In life, proactivity is set your goals to the sky, and maybe you reach the moon. It's all about what we want, sister. Quran says that we give you what you deserve. So no mother should say that. On Judgment Day, people come and ask me, brother, what can I do to put my foot in paradise? I said, well, my one foot in paradise. I said, what's the rest of the body? Hell? Yeah, just. I looked at her and says, oh, why are you asking me this question? No, brother, I'm such a sinner. I'm such a thief. I'm such a liar. I said, look at you. You have convinced yourself you're a loser. And now you just barely want to breathe. Why would you say no? No. I want to be the neighbor of the Prophet. What stopped you? Allah says, قُلْ يَا عِبَادَ الَّذِينَ أَسْرَفُوا عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ لَا تَقْنَطُوا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ جَمِيعًا. Say to those who have gone astray the path of Allah, don't lose hope in the mercy of Allah. God forgives everybody. This idea, what can I do to put my one foot in paradise? Wrong. To say, what can I do to be with the Prophet in Maqam al-Mahmud? That's a different attitude now. Look, everything else in our business, it's the ultimate. Somebody's driving a Mercedes, well, mine is to be a bigger number. I met somebody in Dubai at a 60,000 square foot house, 55,000 square foot. He's complaining to me it's too small. I said, إِنَّ الْمُبَذِّرِينَ كَانُوا إِخْوَانَ الشَّيَاطِينِ تَبْذِيرًا. He says, well, my neighbor's house is 5,000 square foot bigger. I said, what are you going to do? When I come into your house, I get lost in here. You need a map to get here. What do you want? Abundance is diverted then. So please, my suggestion to us all, even mothers, and I don't blame mothers. Mothers will say, my son at least is smoking. Let us say he's doing that. But if he's not, this is where we can't talk about promotion of excellence. Damage control, promotion of excellence. Damage control is at least he's sitting in my house. Promotion of excellence, son, how about we do something else? You wean him off of it, and you give him something else. No human being refuses alternatives.
Based on it, I have a question.
Yeah.
Say like a mother doesn't know a son is smoking.
Let's say a mother doesn't know that the son is smoking.
Okay, he's doing it outside, he doesn't know.
The mother doesn't know.
Mother doesn't know. Parents maybe don't know. It's my responsibility.
Your responsibility is to constantly advise them to be good. If it's beyond your control, at least on Judgment Day, you did your best to advise and give the best attitude to your son.
What is my responsibility? Do I have to go and tell the parents about it?
Or if you saw somebody smoking,
Yeah.
you should advise and make it generic. Let's say the parents are very harsh, then make it generic. Go to the child and talk to them. Why do their parents have to know? Maybe you go to the child, maybe the child will stop with you. Isn't it better if I can intervene and stop it before it gets to the parents? And then you engage the parents into the conversation too, to change. Why is the child smoking? Believe me, I've spent a lifetime figuring these things out. Children do deviant things because they're not given good alternatives. I cannot simplify the sentence more. Children become deviant because they're not given good alternatives. And Shaitan is ever ready to market us. Ever ready. فَبِعِزَّتِكَ لَأُغْوِيَنَّهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ. By authority, I am going to beguile them all. If you and I do not proactively create systems to stop Iblis, he is going to take us over. I'll give you a good analogy. All of us have homes. You go on vacation, Let's say you go for 6 months. Right? You just polished your house, you vacuum, you clean the whole house, you left. I can guarantee you when you come back, there's going to be dust everywhere, webs everywhere. But you left it clean. Yeah, but you were not proactively cleaning, so you got taken over. That's the soul, same thing. If you don't constantly cleanse it, it turns into webs. That's why salah is so important. Inna salata tanha 'anil fahsha'i wal munkar. It keeps your heart fresh. It keeps your body fresh. It keeps your mind fresh. The salah is alive. It's like cleaning every day. Every day you clean. Every day you vacuum or you polish. You take a bath every day. Because what happens if you don't? It's going to destroy you. There's an intrinsic quality of life that if you and I are not proactive, Allah says something else will take over. I'll give you a simple example. Some of you have watched some movies. Sometimes you see these massive jungle cities. And then in the movie, it's a sci-fi movie, they go in and as they're going to the jungle, they see these concrete structures. Only to find out there was a metropolis city that was once there. But then there was nobody to live in it, so the plants started coming out and cracking through the concrete. And the next thing, the trees took over and it became a jungle again. Manhattan was a jungle. And if the human race leaves it for a period of time, Manhattan will become a jungle again. What's the moral of the story? If you're not proactive, Allah will replace it with something else. And there will be decadence. Same with spirituality, same with mothers, same with our society. If we're not constantly tracking to uproot the satanic systems, give alternative ways, we fail. Look at this center. How many of you consider this center in Sanford important? Raise your hands. Everybody should raise their hands, don't you agree? Why? Because this is an alternative. If we don't have this, where are these kids going to go? Where are the adults going to go? They're going to go entertain themselves somewhere. And there's ever-waiting programs out there. And they're not very moral. What are you going to do?
We have lots of questions coming in. We have a question over there as well.
Sure. Yes?
My question is, I work with teenagers, and one of the, I'm trying to say it politely, they feel that our community members are hypocritical, they backbite, and they're judgmental. And for that reason, some of them don't want to come to workshops, they don't want to come to programs. What's your take on that?
I agree that our attitude in the community should be conducive to a welcoming environment. So if a center like this has an aura of being judgmental, of being like a club, or being of an exclusive nature that looks down on other groups, then such an institution is not performing an alternative lifestyle of damage control. It is now contributing to damage.
And the backbiting and
Same thing. There's nothing worse than backbiting. That's character assassination. And Quran uses the analogy of eating the flesh of your dead brother. You see? لا يغتب بعضكم بعضا أيحب أحدكم أن يأكل لحم أخيه ميتا. You are eating your dead brother's flesh. People who do this, and people are prevalent in our communities. I mean, there's prevalence in our community of backbiting. And I believe people who backbite are the ones who have no security in life. Their only security is to degrade others. Because the more you fall, the better they feel. Because they don't know how to go up. They just know how to bring people down. Because when you bring people down, it appears you're up.
There's another question over here.
It's a mentality, psychological problem. We'll talk about this. This is a serious problem, and it needs to change. You might ask me, how do we change this? We educate. Good role model. And we take steps to stop it. You see, you go to the Middle East, for example, quick and then I'll get to you, but you go to the Middle East, there's no concept of a line. Line. If you stand in a line, are you crazy? You'll never get there. I don't want to mention the countries, but standing there, people say, what are you doing? I'm standing in a line. Come on, this. This is how you get there. So I'm saying, what a barbaric way. He says, well, that's the only way. Now, I realize what the problem is. Why are people not going? Because the one who is serving is not paying attention to the rule. So then look up, whoever's the hand is it, they'll take it. Oh, so that's how it works. Now, I was in Dubai, for example, and I was going to the Indian embassy. I was invited to go and speak in India, so I wanted to go get a visa. So I was in the Indian embassy, and I was chaotic also. All these local Arab guys with this agal and stiff clothes is walking in. He sees a big line, he just crosses and comes and puts his thing, his passport, into the window. And this Indian lady, mashallah, she was good. Excuse me, sir. Get back over there. We don't want to serve you. Stand in line. Because, excuse me, go back there. He took the stuff, he went back there and said, bravo, that's what we need. A few cracks of the whip, they will learn. The next thing, he'll look for a line. But if you violate it, then who wants to follow that? You get it? So when our community is busy and backbiting and no one puts a stop on it, then it becomes de facto prevalent. It becomes part of the system. You've got to expose it, make a big deal out of it, and make an issue that is unacceptable. Then the person back says, okay, this is taboo. We don't do that. Hence, we suffer.
Here's a question from one of the sisters, and it states, what about the baraza habit during majlises and children picking up?
I know people who come to the baraza and love it because it says it's a social environment, but I wish the baraza was talking about the spectacles of the universe and why Allah created us and the essence of Quran and how to be productive and proactive. So the barazas, to me, as socially good as they are, they're very disruptive. And you see those people in the baraza, they're growing old and nowhere. They're just fading. Every time you see them, their bodies are just degrading. And they're just there like with the smoke, I said, my God, when are you going to wake up, for God's sake? The world is leaving you, time. By the time you're going to die, what have you done? What can we do? Mishkaki's there. I said, okay, I'm not going to say anything. Yes, sister. Bad names is haram in Islam. I was, in fact, I come from Zanzibar, so with due respect, I was a master in naming people bad names. But in fact, I mentioned that one time I was speaking in Dar es Salaam, everybody's got a name. So I said, the Quran says, for example, in the Quran, Allah says, لا يسرق قوم من قوم عسى أن يكونوا خيرا منهم. ولا تلمزوا أنفسكم ولا تنابزوا بالألقاب بئس الاسم الفسوق بعد الإيمان. Do not give each other bad names after your faith. ومن لم يتب فأولئك هم الظالمون. And if you don't repent, you are an oppressor. So after finishing that, people like giving nicknames. I said, nicknames is not haram in Islam, but giving bad nicknames is haram. I said, I challenge you, since you love to give nicknames, give him a good nickname. And suddenly everybody forgets the name. The good nickname? No. We like the bad one. And God forbid you're doing the bad thing. Like maybe there's a donkey in your house, suddenly your family's called a donkey. You find a goat in your house, suddenly you're a goat in your house. There was one mullah who fell from the pulpit, he was called Mullah Ghai. So I'm thinking, okay, you cannot escape this naming convention. Whereas, and sadly, it goes so far that the poor guy's tombstone has it. Because if you don't put that in parentheses, they don't know who the guy is. And you can see this poor guy even calls him, says, yeah, I am that. I said, I feel so sorry that you call us this. What to do? Everybody calls me this. Quran says it's haram. So calling each other bad names, and it's an indicator of our instability and our low standards. High standard people don't do that. Low standard people, uneducated, lay, ignorant fools do that. Because the only way to elevate is to demote. But a real person who believes in promotion of excellence says, no, I want my brother to be up there, and I want to be up there. There's a difference in attitude. By the way, people who demote don't believe in the rahmah of Allah. Anybody who demotes does not believe in rahmah. If you and I believe in rahmah of Allah, we only promote. We never demote. We only demote evil. We always promote potentials. We never demote. We never allow demotions because we love the potential, because the treasury of Allah is infinite. So if Allah gives to me, how can you not give to me?
Thank you. There's a question over here.
Yes.
Yeah, from a different angle. How do you motivate our brothers and sisters to be proactive in Islam?
The motivation is by understanding and by example. I believe many times our youth, especially our community, they need an example. They need somebody who's taken the step. Once they see it's happening, they join forces. To give you a business example, in New York, a lot of our families had laundromats. But guess what? One of them started it, it became successful, everybody got into it because it was motivational. So, oh, it's a good business. He's doing it, he's doing well, let's get into it. What happens is, on a moral standard, when you do something for Allah and you take the step and you become a role model example, the community follows. And communities need that. So how do we do it? As I mentioned, first have the vision, have the desire, realize the potential, and realize the potential damages if we don't do it. And always say, oh Allah, I am on this earth for a finite amount of time. If I don't do your work, I fail. So I can't wait tomorrow to do this. That's a very motivating factor. I wake up every morning, I thank Allah that you've given me one more day to do your work. How did I learn that? I learned it from Imam Ali, I learned it from the Prophet. When I would read Nahj al-Balagha, the Imam would wake up, he would put his right foot on the ground. He said, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. This is a role model. He's given me the role model. You and I have it. You don't need somebody in Sanford to do it. Our prophets and imams have done it. Been there, done that. So there's no excuse to say, no, you start, I'm not going to start. Wrong. If we say that, that means we haven't evaluated the danger. We have not evaluated the potentials we have. It's a two-part realization. I have the potential to conquer the world, and I have the potential to destroy the world. Which one do I want? Many times I grew up as a child, even as a teenager, I say to myself, life is full of slippages, wrong issues. You can never trust people. Trust is very difficult. I sincerely say to you, I don't trust even myself. I trust Allah, the Prophet, I obey them, my parents. That's it. Because I know deep down, I don't know. Trust is a very difficult thing. But you wake up. And I used to say to myself, what do? I can either give up my religion, do all the haram, become wretched, steal, cheat. Because there's no guarantee in life. Or I can be firm and stand upright till I die. Allah said to me, you've only got two pathways. You throw the towel in, you spiral to eternal abyss. And if you don't throw the towel, you have to be upright. Which one do you want? Imam Ali says something beautiful. He said, if you do not improve the next day from the previous day, it is like you died. So you can't. That means I can't throw the towel in, and every day I have to say, today, what am I going to do to get it better and get me more efficient? So I'm going to explain very briefly here. Let me just end this. Damage control, prevent further degradation, create safety checks and valves to ensure no damage. When you create a project, get feedback, understand what's the longevity of the project. And I'll give you some examples of projects that I'm working on from experience to give you examples, but the sky's the limit to what you can do. Okay? Ensure longevity through proper training and awareness. Always keep it ready. Like Quran reciting, right? فَذَكِّرْ إِن نَفَعَتِ الذِّكْرَ سَيَذَّكَّرُ مَن يَخْشَى. Remind them. Reminding is beneficial. You have a mission. Read the mission. If you ever go to a bank and you're asking for a loan, they'll say, give us your business plan. In the business plan, you have your mission and vision. The bank will look at that. They'll say, do we want to invest with you? We like your policy. We think you can execute. We believe you will grow and you will give us the money back and we'll make money from it. The bank every so often calls you back, and if it's a large amount, they'll say, we want to check whether or not you're keeping up with your mission. Because if you're not, we may call the loan back. Banks do this. Not religious systems. Banks do this. What is different there than my iman? What is different than my daily 5 prayers? Is it not reenactment? Is it not hashing with your own heart that I am on mission? I am towards that? This is why Imam Husseini made a magnificent statement that struck me so hard. I swear it made me dizzy for a moment, but I said, subhanAllah, the wisdom of this man. He was praying once as a great alim, and after he finished prayer, a man comes to him and says, you seem to be praying fast. So he replied him, he said, prayer begins when it ends. Wow, that made me dizzy for a moment. What do you mean by that? Then it dawned on me. He said, what you just did was you reenacted the template you were going to practice after prayer. Many of us think that the minute I finish my prayer, I roll up the carpet, I did my God duty. Now let me go be my devil duty. Prayer begins when it ends. What you just did was you recited your business plan, your spiritual plan. When you did Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, read Allahu Akbar, Allah says, now go do it. Then when the next prayer comes, you're going to read it again, go do it. That's the same thing. You're going to reenact. That's how the business works. You keep asking, am I on target? Am I following the protocols? How do you do it? You have people who give you feedback. That's why I mentioned here, you prepare methods to have constant support team, longevity, and you have feedback methods to ensure objective assessment. Feedback. Listen to what people say. Allah gave us 2 ears, 1 mouth. Listen twice as much as you speak, and you'll be surprised what you will see in life. Promotion of excellence is the second part. So to answer your question, Brother Murtaza, extremely important. What can I do to do damage control? What can I do to promote excellence? This is not generic, this is real. I know it sounds good, but I'll show you simple examples and it fits right into the circle. You refine systems. So when, like for example here, in this community, you have this facility. You're going to ask, I've got real estate. 5,000 square? How big is this place? 6,000? How big is this place? How big is this facility? 6,000 square feet? Whatever. What am I doing in a 24-hour scale? We have paid X amount. We're paying this much. This is the cost. I've got so much gas in my day. What am I doing to refine this community so that the projects are enhanced, so that there is greater productivity and there is greater damage control? Are we thinking that way? Hopefully we don't. We come, we replicate what we were taught in our homes. Many times, and I believe it's a blessing, what the community has done to open these kinds of centers is essential, but it's just the first step. Okay? 80-20 rule, please. We must follow the 80-20 rule. If you ever want to be efficient in life, 80-20 rule. 80% knowledge, 20% effort. 20% knowledge, 80% effort. Now tell me, who can tell me which is better, the first or the second? I'll point a finger. How about you, brother? What's your name? Fahim? Are you nervous? You sure? You scared that I ask you a question? Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question. 80% knowledge, 20% effort. 20% knowledge, 80% effort, which is better? Second one, 20% knowledge, 80% effort. Fahim says that's better. How about you, sister? What's your name? Mahdiya. Which one's better? 80, why? 80% knowledge, 20% effort. He says the opposite. Would the two of you like to debate? And don't say, oh, brother, haram, the sister. It's okay, you can debate, it's all right. You want to debate? So why did you choose that? Did you choose it because I put you on the spot? Because you felt there was a 50-50 chance you're right? Low probability? No, why did you choose that first, the second one? So you're saying, how could you be smart with 20% knowledge? You're not smart. Did you get it? 20% knowledge means you're not smart. You don't know much. Did you understand it now? But there will be people who will tell me, brother, 80% effort because Allah wants me to suffer. He wants me to struggle. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ يَا أَيُّهَا الْإِنسَانُ إِنَّكَ كَادِحٌ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ كَدْحًا. I must struggle, sweat a lot. It's good for me. So 20% knowledge, 80%. Why did you say that verse? But then I have less effort. Isn't that terrible as a Muslim? Like you do things so fast. You don't suffer. You don't struggle. You're not sweating. It's not a good thing. Like if If I think of prophets and imams, they were always struggling. She's sticking to her guns. Now that sounds better. Anybody wants to make a comment? Did you all understand the 80-20 rule? Yes.
I mean, with 20% effort, 80% effort, once you learn more as you go along, I mean, even though you're struggling, you're still learning.
True, but is your effort getting less as you're learning?
Right.
You're ready.
Yeah, I was going to sort of, I was thinking if you had more knowledge, you can learn enough to put more effort and balance it out. And same if you had more effort, take that effort and get more knowledge to balance that out.
Okay. So what you're saying, did you all understand what he said? What Husseini is saying is you need to strike strategically in the fastest of ways because of greater knowledge. But what we are forgetting in this conversation is that the time factor when the execution is taking place is finite. So if I put you in a box, and the 80-20 rule is that the 100% is the box, okay, then logically you must be efficient in time. Because what's going to happen is, if you have 80% knowledge, 20% effort, it means your box will be much greater productivity. Because in a finite time, you will achieve a lot more. This is how our Imam and prophets work. They had knowledge, so they were efficient. I'll give you an example. Let's say you need to fix this door. It's a complicated door, let's say. It's got all kinds of complicated machines on it. And you bring a carpenter. He just went out and bought some tools. You know, as a new carpenter. So we'll call him novice. Right? He comes in, he offers you a cheap price, cheaper. But then he starts working on it. And instead of taking 2 hours to do it, it takes him 2 weeks to do it. Did you really save money? No, you lost money. Because in the scope of time, your rest of the week was occupied doing something you shouldn't have been doing. So you didn't save money. Because remember, time is money. And money is time. If you can have it, you are rich because you're powerful. With money is time. Time is with money. So what is the ideal situation? You bring in a craftsman who knows, who walks in here, he may charge you a little extra, but gets the work done rapidly, the right way, and gets out. But how did this one do it so fast? 80% knowledge, 20% effort. So now that carpenter is going to go to another house, and that same 2 weeks that one guy did for the lesser price, this guy did 10 homes. So who got richer? 80% knowledge, 20% effort always breeds greater results. So the answer is correct, and some of you say that the effort should always be there, but it should be productive effort, not non-productive effort. So don't say, I'm struggling, but you're not producing. That means your knowledge base is weak. What happens is with permutations and exercise, you will learn how to do it right. And the more you learn, the more efficient you get, and the faster you become, and the more productive you become. And that's the goal in the promotion of excellence. You want to reach 80% knowledge, 20% effort, otherwise you're not efficient. You get it? When I do projects, for example, I can see my 24 hours by the time I sleep, I eat, I do all my family things, and I don't have enough time. And I know that if I am not efficient, I'm not going to finish this project. It's never going to happen. Okay? Feedback methods. And then finally, problem-solving methods. For each problem, brothers, there is a solution. For every problem, even I must say, for every disease, there's a cure. For each problem, there's a solution. Please don't forget that. I want you in this, when you leave this place, I want you to think of all the problems we have, which we discussed. And we're going to ask ourselves, what little can I do to solve the problem? Each problem is a demand, and the solution is a supply. Now, any businessman knows, but there's a demand, there's supply. As long as there's a demand, you supply. And as long as you're supplying, you're making money. Desire to alleviate stress in society, act of nobility. When someone says, why are you doing this? I want to alleviate problems. What's in it for you? The alleviation of the problem. Solution to the problem should be practical and attractive. Many times we do Islamic projects, they're dull, boring. You know, and then we say, come, sit down, I want to talk to you about Allah. And this child says, it's so boring. Yes, but I'm doing a good thing. I'm going to save you from hell. The child says, if this is the way to paradise, it's boring. You must maintain the moral principles of Allah. Every time you're doing something, you ask yourself, oh Allah, did I do it for me or for you? Did I do it for popularity or for you? When I get on a pulpit, my parents always remind me, my mother always, why are you going up there? Who are you talking about? If it is not for Allah, get off. Because if you're going to pontificate, there's no value to what you're doing. On Judgment Day, Allah will punish you for using His name to promote yourself. Keep Allah the objective and see what Allah does for us, okay? Common problems today, we have a weak education structure in America. In fact, in the world. Our high schools in America practically don't exist. Sad. You know, in Dearborn, there's 300,000 Muslims in a 5-mile radius. We do not have a single high school. How is that possible? If there were 300 Jews in that town that had a top-notch school, how come? Are they smarter than us? No. They figured out how to be proactive. They figured out how to protect their interests. We're not doing it. Alhamdulillah, now with our WISE project, by Allah's grace, we've launched high school. We're competing at the top levels. People say, really? You're going to compete with the best schools? I said, you watch. I said, Allah has given us answers. And if we don't achieve it, shame on us. Because I think nobody has the solution to the problems more than we do. And if we don't produce it, I'm afraid to stand in front of Allah on Judgment Day, because He's going to ask me, I sent you to America. I guided you. I protected you. I educated you. And I gave you health and wealth and family. What did you do for me? Shame on us. Honestly, don't you all agree that our children are in a very dangerous state right now? You might say, but public schools are good. They're good relatively. America right now is ranked 23 on a global scale of education. 23. Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan, they're ahead in the world in reading and math. Our kids are not producing good results. Educational systems in the United States are very profit-driven. Even when you go to charter schools, you get paid $8,000 to $10,000 per student. It's profit-driven. There's a lady who owns 6 charter schools in Michigan. Her name is Nawal Hamadi. She's a very wealthy, enterprising woman. As soon as we launched WISE, she came to me. She said, if I had kids, my kids are adults now. She says, I own 6 charter schools. If I had kids, I'd send them to your school, not to my school. I said, but you own the charter school. She says, I can't compare. In charter schools, you can't teach religion. It's against the law to teach religion in charter school. You cannot teach it morally. We're talking about elevating, and when I talk about Islamic school, I'm not talking about people walking around with long beards and 3/4 mustache and, kufi and says, Bismillah, Allah Akbar, Subhanallah, Bismillah. No. You're living Islam. A Christian can walk in and say, wow, I like this place. Welcome. This is Islam. We don't preach it, we practice it. We have weak social structures. Where do our kids hang out on weekends? Alhamdulillah, some of us here at communities go to people's homes. But there's nothing, there's no real program, no social facilities. Do we have swimming pools? Do we have clubs? You know, my hat's off to the Al-Khanis. Ismailis, you go in Dar es Salaam, Gymkhana, they have cricket, they have places for sports, they have volleyball grounds. You go to Europe and see how advanced. You go and see the Baha'is, you go see the Dawudis. They're so progressive, but they're not hitting the mark in deen. With due respect to them. But they're smart, enterprising people. They do social structures to protect their own kind. Do we do that? We're not doing that. When we do it, I swear, I'm a believer that our community will bring out some of the best leaders on earth. Because we've got the solution. We have a weak support system to promote economic growth. We don't have an economic system. Those of you who come from Dar es Salaam, who come from Canada, who come from anywhere, you've moved to Florida. Have you had any kind of a phone you can pick up and you want to open a business and you get interest-free loans? Do we have anything like that? You have to call your friends. You have to borrow money from the bank. Has anybody cared about who's struggling and who's poor, who's going bankrupt, who can't feed himself tonight? Do we care about those things? We don't have structures. Go to the Ismailis. You come, if you follow the Al-Khan will say, go to Toronto. You go there, there's already an agent waiting for you, and he's going to say, okay, how much money do you need to open a business? We'll give you the money. Because they know the money comes back to the pool. Do we have social structures like this? Serious problem across America. We don't have anything. Yet we have some of the richest people in the world. You know the Shia, the 180s, are some of the richest people in the world. They're the most abused. You know oil in most Middle East countries belong to Shias. They're oppressed. But you go to Iraq, go to Iran, go to Bahrain. Bahrainis, of course, are oppressed. Go to Kuwait. A lot of that land belongs to the Ahlul Bayt followers. It's being robbed by other thieves. We are wealthy. And leave that wealth alone. Within our own structure right here. I'll give you an example. I was in San Jose. Same council facility of $3.5 million loan. At Sala. Some of you know the Association of the Bay Area. It's $3.5 million. I said, one of the co-founders of Cisco in your community. He says, that's right. I said, he alone is worth $1 billion plus. I said, who gave you this money? He says, the bank. How much interest do you pay? 7%. 3.5 million. Do the math. Over a scale of 10 years, that's over $2 million. Interest. I said, the bank loves every takbir al-ihram. Every Ya Hussein, more Ya Hussein. Because my bank is getting good. I said, shame on us. The bank can trust this building, but we who come and pray in it don't trust it. Now, I don't blame anybody. I believe there is no structure for the people to come in and feed their money into it. Nobody's created a structure to say, here's a plan. You put your money in here, guaranteed that you will have equity in this property, and you will encumber it, and it will never go bankrupt. Right? You do it in a strategic way. Now the institution borrows $3.5 million from the community, like Hindus do it, the Sikhs do it, the Buddhists do it, interest-free. So over a scale of 2 years, 10 years, the $2 million would have paid off the $3.5 million, and now we would have had, probably all $3.5 million would have gone, and our community now would have money to do excellent work. But what are we doing constantly? Barely surviving our payments. There's no planning, no thinking. The bank is never ready to give it to us at 7%. What happened to the community? Allah says in the Quran, مَنْ ذَا الَّذِي يُقْرِضُ اللَّهَ قَرْضًا حَسَنًا. Who among you will give a good loan to Allah? Because if you don't give a good loan, the enemy is going to take you over. Bad economic system. How about a child who wants to go to school today and can't afford? We have programs now. I'll explain to you some of the programs we've done. We're starting even this interest-free system. It's growing across America. We've started a few projects. Inshallah, soon, over a span of 5 years, you'll see that it's a big project that's going to take over. We have a weak media channels to prevent misrepresentation. Alhamdulillah, we have channels like Al-Bayt TV and so on, but they're very minor, and they're very segmented and sectorized. I'm talking about a media system. Our kids can get on and get some, it's growing, alhamdulillah. We have some good websites, but we're lacking true representation. Tomorrow, if we get attacked in the media, we don't have countermeasures. There's a brother, I'll give you an example, who's Palestinian. He was a deputy executive in Michigan. Deputy executive of Wayne County, the largest county in the state of Michigan. When he started to grow, the Jews came after him. ABC News came after him. Unfairly attacking him. There was no counterpunch. They were sitting down. And I'm sitting with him. I said, well, what do we do? He says, there's no outlet for us to counter this attack. All of these news medias are against us, and if they decide to point their guns at us, we're done. We don't have a counterpunch system. I said, how does the counterpunch work? He says, pick up the phone and call. So what did we do? We tested it out. NBC came and interviewed him, and the interview was really good. All the other news stations blasted him as a bad guy. NBC, there was a girl, she decided she was going to do another spin, a good spin on him. Media plays that game sometimes. So when she came, she interviewed, it got played. I immediately went online, a group of us, on Facebook, and we said, call this number. Within like 20 minutes, they got, I think, 50,000 phone calls. Like, we love this show, please play it again. NBC played it again, and again. They played it like 3 times. And NBC was stunned by it. He said, we never got so many phone calls in our life for this one show that we did. I said, you see, we have it. We have counterpunch. We're not using it. This is how Jews do it, by the way. Jews, you make one mistake, you'll find 50 people calling you. They'll shoot an email at you, hey, back off. Everybody's scared of them. I don't blame them, they're smart. They know how to push people. Look what happened to JCC, Jaffa Community Center. Didn't he come under attack for this school? Notice, what was the counterpunch? At first, everybody was dangling, they didn't know what to do. And then they started putting the strings more on them. Finally, they went after their charity status. They wanted to get their charity status away from them. Imagine Jaffa Community Center, one of the largest Shia Khoja community centers in the world, right? It was coming under attack. What is the counterpunch we have? If we don't institute and engineer smart ideas and trigger them when needed, believe me, the enemy will say, that's a sitting duck, get them when we want them. Weak support system to promote career objectives. Our kids, we don't have, although alhamdulillah, our community is quite career-oriented, we're not that very career-oriented. We need to plan. Our kids need to be leaders of the future. I'm not talking about just being a doctor or being a scientist. I'm talking about taking key positions in many facilities, universities, professorship. We have them. We're a smart community, but we're not cohesive. I think that's all. Solutions, please improve understanding. Better educational facilities, better social facilities, enhanced media, and we need better management of our funds. There's a lot of mismanagement of funds. I must say, public funds are really, we have to be so smart. Put a little money and you'll be surprised what we can do.
Thank you,
I
brother.
know it's a little tiring, it took some while, but I hope you get the gist of what I'm trying to say. And I do want to share some of the projects that we're doing just to give you some examples, if you're interested, inshallah. But the object, before you get into this, to motivate you as a community, first and foremost, to look around you, and you have problems. We all have problems. What can we do to solve them? And it's wonderful when we take that step. One quick example I'll give. When I came back from camp, parents were saying to me, our kids get lost, we don't know what to do after camp. So we came up with this idea. We knew that the most deviant time a child becomes deviant is between 3 p.m. and 8 p.m. Because that's the time they come out of school, that's the time the parents are not home, until 8 p.m. when the parents come home. So we knew there was a hole here. Look, I'm giving you a simple example of how we solve a problem. So we knew between 3 and 8 there's a problem. What can we do to give an alternative lifestyle? So we launched WISE. WISE is a project which is World Instruction for Scholastic Excellence. We took an 11,000 square foot facility, built a gymnasium, cafe, classroom, and I decked it in a place where a kid would love to go like a kid's club. You hang out, you play ping pong, you play pool, you play basketball, you've got tutors, professional, it's a lounge, you sit around, you eat, like a cafe, just like being at Starbucks, and you're studying for those 3 hours, 4 hours. So kids come there, safe environment, parents feel comfortable. My child is controlled, my child is making the right kind of friends, my child's academic standards are going up because they're failing grades, now suddenly A's, there were D's and F's, now they're becoming A's and B's, and they're socializing in the right environment. By the second week when we launched, we were full and we had a waiting list of 200 kids. And we closed the waiting list. If we kept the waiting list open, we would have had 1,000 kids. What was the point? There is a problem. We provided the supply, the demand was there, the solution, look what happens. Next thing, it grows, snowball. Now we have one opening up in Houston. We have one opening up in London, UK. We have one opening up in Virginia. These are multi-million-dollar centers opening up, all in a span of 2 years. In 2 years, we are growing, and the community is financing it. Every community. In London, one family paid $2.5 million, says, we believe in this, let's get it started. We saw you running it, we're ready for it. Houston, $1 million, 60,000 square foot facility, Granwood, swimming pool, basketball courts, lounges. You got to talk about state-of-the-art facility for kids to come. What happened? We found a problem, we hit it very fast, we produced a good product, and the next thing it snowballed. In this community, the same situation. Everywhere in the world, we have these little issues. Find those solutions, please. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us much success. Let's recite a dua, please. We're going to end this, right? Do we have time?
So here's my dilemma. We're supposed to have, some speech by you and then a lot of question and answer time. You had such good content, and I saw you engage the audience, and that was great. You had these slides. a lot of good information. In fact, you can probably go for days. In fact, maybe we can get to it on a monthly basis. I don't know. Here's what I have a lot of questions from you guys, and I apologize I wasn't able to interject and ask those questions at the right times. We're going to break for tea, but then for those that have those questions, if you can, I would really encourage you to just come here, while you're having the tea and ask those questions to Sheikh Husseini. Okay, and I'll only ask those people that have asked those questions first to come and ask because they have taken the time to write them. And anyone else that wanted to ask questions will follow after that. But really, that's it. I'd like to thank you very much, Hajj Hassanain, for coming out.
Let's end with the dua, please.
We will end with a dua, definitely. I'll give it back to you. I also want to say thank you for all. It's because of the community coming out that we're encouraged to do more workshops like this. So thank you very much for coming out and prioritizing your Fridays. And if you can please do something.
Let's recite the dua from Ashab al-Zaman. As you know, it's very encouraging to do intidar in Afdal al-Ibad and Intidar al-Mahdi. Intidar here should be that, oh Imam, we are proactive Muslims. We're going to set the standards so that when you reappear, it would be wonderful for him to call us and say, I like your project, I want it to be part of my mission. I think that would be the greatest moment for all of us, inshallah. Let's recite. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آله في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا نبي الله، السلام عليك يا خاتم النبيين، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين يا علي بن أبي طالب يا أخي رسول الله، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء يا سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي المجتبى، السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله الحسين وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك، عليكم مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعل الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين، خصوصا سيدي ومولاي أبا الفضل العباس وأختك زينب وبنتك رقية جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين زين العابدين، السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الباقر، السلام عليك يا جعفر بن محمد الصادق، السلام عليك يا موسى بن جعفر الكاظم، السلام عليك يا علي بن موسى الرضا، السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الجواد، السلام عليك يا علي بن محمد الهادي، السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي العسكري الزكي، السلام عليك يا حجة الله يا ابن الحسن يا صاحب العصر والزمان، الأمان 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 يا عين الحياة يا سفينة النجاة، السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان ورحمة الله وبركاته.